Hi everyone, I'm Julian. Bring your curiosity, and welcome back to the Curious Table. Hello, this is Julian from the Curious Table. Today we are joined by high-tech engineer Felix, economist Simon, and historian Helena. So, shall we dive right into today's topic? We live in an era where we can buy items from the other side of the world with a single click and have fresh groceries delivered to our doorsteps by the next morning. But did you know that this incredible logistics revolution, which has become such a normal part of our daily lives, actually started in 1956 with a simple, clunky metal box invented by a truck driver? Today, we will discuss in detail how this ordinary-looking box became the invisible force that moves the world. Yes, today's topic is a new world map drawn by a plain metal box. We are going to explore the massive wave of change to see how this seemingly simple system sparked a global logistics revolution, fundamentally expanding an economic landscape that had existed for thousands of years and transforming our everyday lives. First, let's turn to our economist, Simon. Just how big of an impact did the shipping container have on the economy?
Yes, Julian, it is absolutely incredible. From an economic perspective, the shipping container is far more than just a simple tool for moving goods. It is a core element that completely overturned the global paradigm of production and consumption. It maximized cost efficiency by slashing cargo handling costs from $5.83 per ton down to a mere 16 cents. But at the same time, this massive shift also created new challenges, such as job security issues for dock workers and intense conflicts with labor unions.
You are absolutely right. Throughout human history, the advancement of logistics systems has essentially been the advancement of civilization. The shipping container is a system that instantly revolutionized trade practices that had been in place for thousands of years. While they were initially made of aluminum, they later evolved into much sturdier steel boxes, which greatly increased their efficiency. The Vietnam War, in particular, served as a crucial catalyst that made this system a global standard, and it ultimately paved the way for opening up the Pacific trade network.
From an engineering perspective, the shipping container is a perfect example of how the simple concepts of standardization and modularization can have a massive impact. It was especially crucial when the entire world agreed on a unified ISO standard, matching the corner casting specifications of the containers, without a single millimeter of error. Thanks to that precision, any crane or truck could easily handle these boxes.
Yes, as Felix mentioned, the power of standardization is truly amazing. But before this container system came along, ports were apparently dominated by unimaginable chaos and inefficiency. Helena, could you give us a more detailed picture of what ports looked like before the container era?
That is right. Before the container era, ports were absolute chaos. Everything was shipped as break bulk cargo, meaning goods came in all sorts of shapes and sizes, like coffee sacks, wooden crates, and steel barrels. Countless dockworkers had to manually move and sort every single item by hand. So you can imagine just how exhausting and inefficient the whole process was.
Yes, just as Helena mentioned, the inefficiency was absolutely staggering. At the time, more than half of the total shipping costs were spent just on loading and unloading cargo at the ports. The handling cost reached a whopping $5.83 per ton, which is a number that is hard to even imagine today. These high costs were directly tied to the grueling labor of the dock workers. On top of that, frequent cargo damage and theft led to massive financial losses for businesses.
Just as Simon pointed out, it was truly the height of inefficiency. I can hardly believe the handling costs reached a staggering $5.83 per ton. But then came an idea from just one person that completely shattered this inefficiency, a literal game changer. Helena, who was the person that sparked this revolution?
Yes, the man behind it all was an American trucking entrepreneur named Malcolm McLean. On April 26, 1956, he loaded 58 standardized aluminum boxes onto a modified oil tanker called the Ideal X, and set off on its maiden voyage from New Jersey to Houston, Texas. This was not just the invention of a box, but a historic moment that marked the first commercialization of a new intermodal transportation system, connecting ships, trucks, and trains.
That is right. From an engineering perspective, McLean's idea was incredibly simple, yet powerful. The core was based on two principles: standardization and intermodal transportation. Thanks to this, the container broke down the barriers between different modes of transport, like trucks, trains, and ships, and connected them efficiently.
That is right. Thanks to this standardization and intermodal transportation, the entire logistics cost function completely collapsed. The handling cost, which was previously $5.83 per ton, plummeted to just 16 cents. That is a reduction of over 97%, which is a revolutionary figure that goes far beyond simple cost savings. However, there was a dark side to this incredible efficiency. The massive cost reduction meant the loss of jobs for countless dock workers, and it led to severe conflicts and strikes with port unions during the early days of container adoption. It is truly the dark side of technological advancement.
97%? That is a truly staggering number. You are saying it brought handling costs down to almost zero. However, just as Simon mentioned, we cannot overlook the sacrifices of the workers hidden behind this progress. Regardless, since this single metal box practically eliminated the variable of cargo handling, which was the biggest bottleneck in the logistics system, the global economic map was bound to be completely redrawn.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Even from a historical perspective, it is rare to find a case where a single idea altered the global economic structure and the fate of cities so suddenly. The historical turning point of the Vietnam War, in particular, served as a crucial catalyst for the container system to become the global standard. It proved its overwhelming efficiency by seamlessly transporting massive amounts of military supplies for the United States Armed Forces. Then, by loading affordable Japanese-manufactured goods onto the returning empty ships, the Pacific trade network between Asia and the United States experienced explosive growth. Just as ships connected the world during the Age of Discovery, the shipping container is truly the hidden driving force behind the globalization of the late 20th century.
Thanks to standardized dimensions, containers could be easily handled at any port and on any mode of transportation. Engineering details were especially crucial, such as the ISO standardization that unified dimensions globally without a single millimeter of error, and the corner castings on the containers. Because of this, the container became the physical foundation for building a global production network. This is truly a moment where the greatness of engineering shines.
Yes, you are absolutely right. This single small box changed the way trade had been conducted for thousands of years, and it ultimately transformed our lives completely. Now, let us take a closer look at these broader changes and explore exactly how this metal box reshaped the global economy and the landscape of cities. I see. So you were saying that it went beyond simply moving goods cheaply and completely transformed production methods and the global supply chain itself. And these changes did not just affect corporate production strategies, did they? Helena, I heard that the shipping container even changed the fate of port cities.
Yes, that is correct. Traditional ports located in city centers, such as Manhattan in New York and the London Docklands, went into decline. The water was too shallow for large container ships to navigate, and they lacked the vast space needed to stack enormous amounts of containers. On the other hand, places like Busan, Singapore, and Rotterdam emerged as new logistics hubs, thanks to their expansive land and deep waters.
From an economic perspective, the role of ports evolved from simply handling cargo to becoming the core nodes of the global supply chain. These new hub ports grew into complex economic centers that encompass not only logistics, but also finance and trade, completely reshaping the economic landscape of the cities.
New ports had to feature deep waters and massive yards to accommodate larger containers, and they needed efficient connections to inland transportation networks. Just like a high-performance computer requires an optimized design, container ports had to undergo a complete innovation in their physical system design.
That is truly fascinating. It is amazing to think that a single container changed the fate of entire cities. These massive global changes must have ultimately had a huge impact on our daily lives too. The fast shipping and direct international shopping we experience every day would have been completely impossible without this container revolution.
Yes, exactly. For consumers, it opened up an era where a single click sets the global logistics system in motion. Thanks to containers, overseas goods reach us much more cheaply and quickly, completely transforming our consumption patterns. However, there was also a dark side to this efficiency. With the automation of ports, countless dock workers lost their jobs, and that process was marked by a history of intense conflict and compromise. It is the double-edged sword of technological advancement.
In the past, if you wanted to buy foreign goods, you had to go through special distribution channels, or travel abroad yourself. But today, with just a smartphone, you can have items from the other side of the world delivered to your door the very next day. The shipping container has truly expanded our consumer lifestyle beyond all borders. The Vietnam War, in particular, served as a decisive catalyst for this container system to become the global standard. It proved its overwhelming efficiency by transporting massive amounts of military supplies for the U.S. Armed Forces. Then, by loading inexpensive manufactured goods from Asia onto the returning empty ships, it completely opened up the Pacific trade network between Asia and the United States.
Exactly. While advanced technology accelerated the flow of information, the shipping container allowed the physical flow of goods to keep pace. A single information signal from a customer's click synchronizes and moves a product inside a container somewhere in the world. This system is the very core of the modern logistics ecosystem created by the container.
It is truly amazing to think that a single small click from a customer can set the entire global logistics network in motion. I realize once again that the shipping container is far more than just a box for carrying goods. It is a fundamental system that has transformed various aspects of our lives.
You are absolutely right. Containers made it cheaper to ship goods from the other side of the world than to transport them domestically. By expanding economies of scale to a global level, consumers are now able to enjoy a wider variety of goods at lower prices. It has quite literally brought about the democratization of consumption.
Historically, humanity has never experienced borderless consumption at such a rapid pace. While the age of exploration introduced us to new goods, the shipping container ushered in an era where those goods are delivered right to our doorsteps every single day.
Yes, it really is amazing. In the end, you could say this unassuming metal box served as the greatest logistics innovation of the 20th century, essentially acting as the operating system for the global economy. Now for our final topic. Let's discuss the legacy the container has left behind and what future innovations might become the next shipping container.
Just as the container was never just a box, but rather a perfect standard for the physical world, built on core technologies like ISO standardization and corner castings, digital standards will become crucial in the future. For example, a standard data format for 3D printing could become the new digital container. By transmitting product data and manufacturing items locally on the spot, we could drastically reduce logistics costs. Even things like biobricks and synthetic biology could serve as the shipping container for the biotechnology field.
That is exactly right. Once 3D printing data is standardized, inventory costs will drop significantly, and customized production will become the norm. Just like the shipping container did, new technologies always create massive economic value, but they also bring major disruptions to existing industries and jobs. The next shipping container will go beyond physical transportation and radically lower the cost of moving information and knowledge.
From physical boxes to digital data, and even biotechnology, Innovations beyond our imagination will truly reshape our future in the form of another container. It has been a truly fascinating discussion today, exploring how an unassuming metal box became a system that changed the world, and what kind of innovations the future might hold. The Curious Table will be back next time with even more fascinating topics to explore. Your likes and subscriptions are a huge help in making these videos. Thank you so much for watching until the very end.